She looks good. Mm-hmm. No. Okay. All right. Am I in the frame? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, welcome, Rob.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure's mine, Nathan.
Yeah, Jabin told me a lot about you. Not a lot, but he said you are a person that could talk about AI.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go forward. You just tell me how I can give you a little bit of background on the things I've done, what I've done in AI, and where what I see as the world of AI. It's been pretty much a good piece of my life.
Absolutely. Let's talk about. Give us a little bit of a background about yourself.
Sure.
Just tell us about yourself.
Sure. You know, I was born in West Virginia. My parents were immigrants. They came from India, and my father was a mining engineer, and my mother was a doctor. We settled in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania when I was about 6. All these things, I think in life, sometimes we look at opportunities as more of a push or a pull, but fortune or fortuneless, right? My fortunes happened to be, was born to a great family that actually gave me opportunities, that brought me to a place like Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, which I'll tell you why that's very important. And I had a mother, although she came from a village and she didn't have a lot, she was able to manifest something better for me, my brother, and my sister, but even for herself. And one of her great triumphs, I would say, in this world is that she worked with Dr. Bernard Fisher on the breast cancer protocol. Why that's important is I, as a little boy, was in the breast cancer protocols with her as she was looking at patients, and I thought to myself, how could I make this better? At that time, the death rate of cancer was about 80%. And I started looking at those patients and wondering, what medically could I do? My mother obviously wanted an orthopedic surgeon, and she got me. In that game, I began to start looking at ways that I could look at different perfusion. I was allowed to play with all of it. And I would say back in the 70s, they would classify me as more of a neurodiverse guy, right? So I didn't fit a box, and I probably had, I know I had attention deficit, and a lot of my early struggles left me alone, but in a way, in a good way, because I started really disavowing what people told me outside of my parents, because they were the only ones that really supported that. In that journey, as all of us you need a touchstone, and I had touchstones along the way, my parents being one of them, but there were great teachers along the way, and I had the great luck to be in Pittsburgh at that time, 1970. The Robotics Institute just started, Software Institute just started, Raj Reddy just started. He will probably win at some point a Nobel, and I happened to be at a party with a group of friends drinking beers with a guy named David Tolliver. Tolliver, I would argue, is one of the greatest minds of AI. He came up with the bone fracture software. This is 1993 that allowed us to look at fractures with UPMC and Carnegie Mellon, became the basis of Watson in years later. All that happened just because of my luck. Sometimes you have a good luck and sometimes you have a bad luck. And I would look at most of my luck as good luck. That was a good luck. I happened to be in that center, happened to see that. But that didn't really, you lay seeds in life, right? Just like touchstones. And that was a seed that needed to grow. It didn't quite grow yet, but I saw what the future could be. And I sat around futurists. My father was friends with Raj Reddy, a brilliant man, but definitely a level of, confidence. I don't want to call it arrogance, because he did do a lot for all of us in this field and many people that came off of that East Coast work. So, but that story stops there in terms of AI. And then many years later, I became a serial entrepreneur. I've never, ever lived with a fear consciousness or this poverty consciousness. I always believed if I rebelled enough and believed in what I had, and this came self-assured from my mother and father, they never doubted those capabilities, I could do things that nobody else could do. And there were moments when I did that. When I was really young, I did a 5x5 matrix, which I didn't even know why we do 5x5 matrices, but now I understand. In quantum physics, you need multivariable analysis to look at different equations to actually model problems. But in those days, my teacher couldn't believe I could do it. But my mind was like that. I could see things and instantly come up with answers in certain areas, but other areas not so developed. It took me a little while to read and gain in those worlds. But my parents were very patient, and they refused to let teachers give them what could be for me. They knew that there were bigger things. I had a baby brother who was reading at 3. And he is one of the greatest men I've ever known, but he was never one. He saw what was happening, and he was supportive of what I could do in life. And that constant support allowed me the time. And in life, you need time and space. If you have time, you can create the space, and from that will come greatness. And that, in some parts of my life, happened to be. I eventually started a company in my mid-20s. It was a company called, we built the first suspension system. I was fascinated on how people walk. And so randomly, again, I was in Pittsburgh, walked into a lab, met a guy named Robert Sturgis, a doctor of science, and he showed me, he let me start working on building endoscopes in his lab. He built the first banking endoscope using geometry, conicals and spears that allowed it to bank using geometry. And he said, do what you can do here. And with that kind of exposure, it allowed me to see a greater world, that people were actually giving me a chance to be creative. See, I think in the world, most creatives have a hard time getting expression, but I happen to be fortunate people were taking chances with me at a very young age. In that journey, I joined a senior design project, and we built a suspension system for a walker. Within months of that, I got a meeting with one of the biggest device companies, had a royalty deal on the table on a Monday. They took it off on a Wednesday and stole the patent. One of the greatest lucks of my life. They did that. They saved me a great deal of trouble, because I know if anyone would have given me any kind of money at that age, probably wouldn't be here today. Great luck. But more importantly, my patent attorney, when I told him what they had done, a tear welled up in his eye. And he told me at that point, I would never leave your side. That's been 30 years, still with me today. Long story short, I was at a wedding, and David and I resurfaced again together. David had now become a legend in AI. I would argue probably the godfather of most modern AI. And I asked him, are we ready for the AI? We dreamed of things in college. The compute wasn't there. There's many things that needed to be laid for the great AI that we have today. One was compute, two was memory, three was storage. All these things had to hit at once, right? And then an ability to deploy the thinking of the great Jeff Hinton. When you're looking at a neurological study and how do we model the human brain at 100,000 neurons and compute that down in the modeling model, which was brilliant. It took time to get there. But when we met almost 10 years ago, I asked him, I said, are we ready? He said, I believe we are. And that became the first of what SCA did, which is the AI company that I'm currently part of. We built the first diabetes model. We were able to predict blood sugar into the future at a 50% confidence interval 10 years ago, won Best of Show at American Diabetes. The next thing we did is we took on what I believe to be the corner problem in artificial intelligence, not large language, but image, because I know that image takes many dimensions and it takes a while to compress into. So in that journey, we took on what we consider the image problem, and we actually were the first company to diagnose brain tumors 9 years ago with the help of City of Hope, able to look at a brain in volume and tell you where the tumor was. And with that came T-cell delineation. Obviously, we spoke of diabetes prediction, and we were the first company to get a vascular map, meaning we mapped all of the bodies arterially and can tell you where to insert devices later. That became the cornerstone of what I've done in AI over the last 9 years. In that journey, I had the opportunity to be a part of Plug and Play, which in the world of, and anyone in Silicon Valley knows that we have this whole ecosystem on how we build companies. And one of them is the angel. Second is the incubators. Third is Series A, Series B, and Series A, B, C, D, whatever you want to call it, right? In that world, we were accepted into Plug and Play. We were the second AI company at that time. Many of those companies in that first cohort, we were unique. And as any companies go, we have all these life and death positions, right? You think you're high and then you drop. You think you're high and then you drop. That is the world of startups. It's this up and down. It's like riding a bear, and a bear's going to buck. You got to hold on to the bear. And if the bear tosses, you definitely don't want to get in the front. So you want to either be underneath or you can grab back on. That's kind of what happened with us. We had a lot of great turns, but I'm proud of the work and the accomplishments. And today, I've done a number of these, but in my time, I'd like to think the work is worth something. And that's the reason why we do this work. For me, I don't look at ways to make money. I look at if my heart is big and I have empathy, if I can feel the pain, then I can solve a problem. So show me some pain. That's what I tell you. I don't need smart people. What I need are people with grit. I need people a little bit of gungy inside that got a little bit of grit. That grittiness is a quality that most startups that are great have. They have someone in it or that initial team, because you have to be able to see yourself doing the impossible. That means it's one heartbeat, one mind, one breath. That's what it takes. So that isn't genius. Most random genius, like my great friend David, who God bless him and I do love him, does not work well with others. That's just how it is. He's a brilliant outlier and maybe the most brilliant I've ever met in my life. But in that world, you've got to be able to blend parts. Whatever your brilliance is or whatever the ideas are, there has to be a blend. And in that shared blend comes opportunity. In opportunity comes struggle. And in the struggle, you build great things. And that's really been the ethos of my work and the work that we do. I hope that's a good enough overview.
Wow. That's awesome, man. You spoke like, what, 5 minutes straight? Without interruption. That's cool. Like usually in my podcast, like I have to like bring people up to like, start speaking and asking questions, but it looks like that's not the case with you. I have a question. Do you have maybe I overheard, but do you have a background in like in medical field? Or
I do not. I was surrounded by doctors. I've got a degree in political science with a class short of chemistry, 2 classes short of a biology degree. I worked at a bank and went back for a MECE degree, and basically with a year short of a MECE degree, more importantly, had the ability to get involved in the inner design teams between Carnegie Mellon and the University of Pittsburgh.
Do you still pursue that political science in any way?
No, not at all.
How did it? Why did you choose political science, or why did it not end up pursuing it?
I think part of it was I had a teacher that I adored, and then my college at the time, which has now changed, was a what we would consider in old terms a pure liberal arts school. So the core curriculum was 64 credits of a lot of stuff. Most colleges in those days, if you had 64, in our college it was 32 credits to core to get degree. That has all changed. The core numbers have changed. But in those days, my school, and I feel academics today does not allow children to actually explore. And when I was going to school 30 years ago, it was more of like that. You could touch, and my school was built like that. It allowed me to get into a lot of different things. I mean, there's another area that I became, I took an art class my senior year, a bunch of art classes, and in that was the other side of me that got developed because I was able to dance a little bit. So political science was just something I had enough general distribution that I took to, but I took these science classes along the way and eventually got into actually making clay structures too. A lot of my art has been around the world and been put in museums, and I've had the honor to work with great artists like Zabine, who you've had on this podcast, but I've had a great honor to deal with and play in. But I actually, my original part of my career plan was really looking at and becoming an artist. I had worked with a great artist who was in my ceramics class named Mark Costa, and he actually went on to go to New York. That was my original dream, was to let me just walk out of here and head to New York and start pulling clay and building models. And I was winning art shows in those days. So when I was a really young artist, had no idea what I was doing, truthfully. I just had my hands in the mud, and the mud was guiding me. And my teacher told me, he said, you're an extreme artist. So if you're extreme, 90% of this will be shit. But the 10% that'll come out will be great. So keep pulling the edge. Don't get complacent. Don't be satisfied. Keep pulling and pulling and pulling. And then Mark came up with this brilliant idea. It's like, why don't we just go take a car and drive to New York, and we'll set up a place in Greenwich Village. I'll work days, you work nights, and we'll share the studio. And he was a glass painter. Many artists are multifaceted. Picasso could cast as he could weld, as he could paint. We know his paintings, but he was in those days, most of us, all artists like to play in all mediums to see how we develop and pull things forward. And I just didn't have the courage, scared. I mean, for the first time in my life, when he wanted to go to New York, I went to my mother, and my mother said, look at your bedroom. That closet, that will be your room in New York. That's the room he's talking about. You will work 3 jobs to make that rent. Do you really want that for a life? And that pulled me back for a minute. But interestingly enough, and this is actually where I had met some of my artist friends like Sabine and the Tom Francos, who I give great credit to. As I was breaking through, as life works, it's not, it can be rocky at moments, but it's not always hard. And I was going through a divorce. Tom Franco energized my ability to make art. He came to me and he said, as I was falling apart, you are falling apart, but we will make art. We will meditate. This is temporary. And in that, you will find your way back. And it is my journey. God had told me it was my journey to show the world your greatness. So in that, Within days of that conversation, almost 30 days later, I sold the first painting I'd sold in 25 years to a couple in Beverly Hills. And from there, I'd been painting and sculpting since, and many other, I've done a number of shows since then. And it was kind of an interesting journey back home. You know, it's like when you mess with the clay, it's like riding a bike. It's like an old friend who you miss. You're back, huh? Now we get a chance to play. And I believe great minds are the intersection of right and left brain. It's not one or the other. We teach kids today left brain, but really it's the confluence of the two. And those two actually generate the great ideas that come forward. You meet anybody. Einstein could play the violin. Oppenheimer can quote the Vedas from memory. That's what they were. They were both. They were not just scientists that knew math. Even though Oppenheimer could calculate the amount of dynamite when the bomb went up in his head, that wasn't the only thing he could do. He could also read Sanskrit for fun, right? But that's how those minds work. It's the middle part. It's not one or the other. And same here for me. And I think most creatives are like that. If you read anything on Steve Jobs, the one thing he learned from Reed College was how to draw, right? Calligraphy. That's the font, which became a whole industry, right? I mean, it's kind of like that. Ideas come in that way.
And then you said you were lucky enough to be exposed to AI during your journey, right? And it has to do with a lot of like the medical field, right? From what I understand.
Really, AI that we know, at least with the work that Raj was doing, was defense related. So in the 80s, the United States Defense Department was looking for robots. They put out a mission statement to build ad hoc robotic military systems. And in that, networks needed to be built. In that, intelligence needed to be built. So when I first was exposed to AI, that's how it started. I mean, my love, if there's an impact point in AI, it would be medicine, right? If I could tell you when you're going to die, what would you pay me to do that? If I could predict I mean, even in the modern world, when we look at what happened with COVID, and I don't want to get too deep on either side of this, but the genius of that is in 90 days, they looked at all the protein codons and came up with a CRISPR code to stop that disease. Only AI could do that. Who could look at that throughput of data? That's a remarkable achievement for medicine, one way or the other. So that gives you hope that there are many things at the cellular level, right? If we look at diabetes, there are 40 different types of diabetes, 30 to 40 different types. In that, they all express phenotypically the same, but I'm an Indian, Zabine is Persian. If you put the two together, we don't react the same way. There's different micro triggers in here that we are missing. That's the beauty. The data, as we look at it today, is X and Y, but real data is really dimensional, X, Y, and Z. How does it all play together? And in medicine, it's a perfect way. The thing that really motivated me to get AI in medicine, it was a study out of MIT where most doctors were missing breast cancer in women, black women especially, 9 times more likely to die. Why? Implicit bias. They think black women are stronger. When black men, 8 times more likely to die of prostate cancer. Why? Implicit bias. AI, MIT, did not miss. That, to me, could you democratize something so vital? Because to me, it's a right. It's not something that you'd have to fight to get. And what better way? And if you're in India or China or anywhere else in this world, how do you get that level of care? How is that possible? Only with systems that can look at large form data will that happen. And that's the only way it's going to happen. That's a big deal. So I was looking at I look at big swings, right? There are many ways that computer vision can be used. You can build drones. You can blow up people's buildings. You can look at stuff on store shelves and look at market trends, right? That's a lot of way. That's not what I wanted. So that's where medicine comes largely as a tribute to my mother, who I believe was the finest doctor I've ever known. And it's not just the medicine. What made her great was her heart. And that's really what I think medicine can do when it's done properly. If you give the doctor the time to be a doctor, what could the doctor do? Not having to do 50 pounds of paperwork, not having to hit all these stupid regulations along the way, and not having the proper tool to see into you. That's what AI could do. So that's where my motivation comes there. But I've seen it from a couple sides. Most of my work in today's world, yes, is medical AI. My patents, I have 13 total, and the 7 that are in AI are all based in there. Sure.
And the models that you use are computer vision. models, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, if if AI will actually improve people's health, right? And is there a possibility to live longer?
I mean, longevity. So now we talk about how do we view disease, and the disease models that stands today, we look at a lot of symptomatic disease. If we could predict who's going to get what and play that game, meaning merge the genetics, the epigenetics, the individual, and the disease, and beat the disease before the disease gets you. That's where I think that game. But I would undoubtedly that what's going on in CRISPR, I think will affect everybody. And yes, I do think there's a moral discussion of sorts of how long do we really want to live, right? That's going to happen. With AI today, what AI gives you is a tool that can give you dimensional insights into data that we stored for over 100 years. That's a powerful tool. We have a real problem in medicine today with antibiotic resistance, real problem. But there was an AI recently that was able to find a bacteria in the soil, of all places, that has been able to show a battle against the anti-resistance. If I can look at the world, the natural world, which is the construct for most models of innovation, the answers are sitting out there, right? I know of mushrooms that actually can break down nuclear waste, right? That's known. So if we made it on this planet, it can be solved on this planet. The question is, do we have the data science to understand it? Will that apply to human health? I think 1,000%. And honestly, that would be a good thing. If I look at diseases like MS or Huntington's, those are diseases that are awful. I mean, do we make a choice to go after the master genome? It's questionable, because if you can do it there, then can you do the other side? Can I make a super athlete? Can I make a super genius because I know the genes for I mean, this is a moral dilemma. But for me, when I look at awful illnesses that affect other human beings, I would say that would be a meaningful purpose in what we do.
So, there are these types of people, right, that basically, since they were born, they would like to care, like, like probably your mom, she wanted to be a doctor and like to heal people, healers, right?
Sure.
Healers.
Sure.
But me looking philosophically for this, like, humanity, right? Like, humanity are living right now a lot healthier lives, right? Like, compared to before, people live life a little bit longer and healthier. Do you say on average we'll live healthy? Or at least we could eliminate a lot of the issues that used to be before, but new issues keep popping up, right? What I'm saying is, when your quality of life improves, looks like there's this interesting trend that is happening that people become old and the population starts becoming old, and then there's a risk of collapse of population, right?
Yeah, you're talking about the Japanese model. The inverted rocket. Right? What happens when you have too many old people, not enough young people replacing the old, which is what all the models of economic growth were based on in the 1940s, right? Big young population. I think the number was 7 to 1. 7 young people to 1 would allow for that. And you're right. I think people are living longer, but is that quality of life there? That's questionable. I mean, when I look at, as we get older, the cells themselves are programmed to destroy themselves. So we're getting deeper into what is cell death. What does that mean, right? So if you can make my heart go longer, but my brain's not going, what good is that for health? Is there any advantage to that, right? I would question that thinking. But that being said, someone has to dare to take a big risk, right? And more importantly, in most of AI work, we're not talking about the moral discussion here, right? I mean, one of my heroes in artificial intelligence, and he will always be my hero till the day I meet him, is Dennis. Every time you meet your hero, they break your heart, right? So, but Demis Hassib, I would argue a lot of his work that he's done at DeepMind is the reason why we're here today. They proved that they could actually map all the proteins in the world, and he won the Nobel at 32 for that work. Huge deal. That protein library allows us to unlock secrets of nature. And maybe secrets of disease, maybe secrets of longevity. But I think ultimately we need to come to this place of we are now converging artificial intelligence, robotics, and human beings, and this idea of engineering things to the way we want it. We are now an element of evolution with this tool of CRISPR, which is what biology has used for millions of years. That's how bacteria fight viruses and vice versa. This is what they're doing to each other. This is the war. Same for us. Now, what does that mean for us as a society? Brings up some questions. What's the moral dilemma here? I mean, do you make someone live 150 years for what? And are there resources to make that work? What is the balance? I don't know that. Rob, I try to take every piece of science that you develop. Even Nobel had said this has unintended consequences. He built dynamite to clear roads. They use it to blow up people, right? The man that discovered fertilizer, he probably saved 3 billion, but he also came up with phosgene, gas warfare. Same man. What is science in that role? What role is that, right?
Yeah, different sides of the coin.
Exactly. And same thing with Demis, right? He did something really brilliant, the thinking game. But you know what he did? When he did that, he showed that he could beat the Chinese Go machine. That put this into an arms race is what we're looking at right now. That's how this thing spurred up. Was that the right thing to do? Because he was curious. He likes a thinking game.
I have this notion of like we're human beings almost programmed to create AI as a I don't know, as a species. I know like there are some people that are skeptical and don't want that to happen, but as a whole, as a larger amount of people, like the amount of people that want to invent AI, it's like it was very curious, I think, to us all the time. We wanted to create something that is like these environments or some sort of like a mind or like a robot that almost resembles us or even better than us. We're almost wired to do that. It's like a program of our DNA.
Well, I think when you look at the death model, human beings don't want to die. If anyone you've watched ever die, I have asthma, for example, and when you get into an arrested attack, and I've been through a couple, it won't let you go. Your body will send a shot of adrenaline to that heart. That heartbeat will go for as long. That's the nature of the human system.
So we're programmed not to die.
Right.
Okay.
You'll fight to the end. The body will fight to the end. Whether you give up, that's another matter. But
what about the AI? Why are we want to create?
I mean, and that's what I would tell you is that from an ego standpoint, I think a human being, the whole history of human beings, we invented fire to clear the land and kill more animals and eventually build domestication. We've always tried to manipulate the environment we lived in. When we look at real disease, penicillin was built to take out bacteria that were killing us. We were always trying to engineer that environment. Is AI a form of that engineering? Absolutely. Are we trying to learn more about these things? Absolutely. Does it make life easier? I don't know that yet. I don't know that yet. I think for the amount of volume of information that human beings are exposed to, I don't know that it's healthy. I mean, you think about the amount of data that a child's exposed to and the things he's seeing. Look at what's happening in our society.
Mental health.
Right. The anxiety levels are going up. The pressure's going on everybody. Anyone who works remotely, you think they're really free? Those phones track everything you're doing. They're watching your keystroke. Is that really a better life than showing up 9 to 5 and going home? I don't know. But there is a strain on the human being of what we can take, right?
Yeah, the amount of information we intake per day compared to what it was before is
unbelievable.
Magnitudes.
Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
And how does that affect, right?
Yes.
Our physical wiring, how does that affect like our beings, like mental health, physical health? I think it also has effect on the physical health.
Without question.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we're not sedentary. Human beings, the real human, in this, the one, we're nomads. 2, we run. 3, we're supposed to be in the sun.
There you go. We're coming to nomads.
Right. Like your eyes, the sun calibrates. Your eyes calibrate off the sun. That's why so many kids are myopic now, because they stare at screens. That blue light is not good for you. Right? The ability to hear, all of us are wearing pods. What do you think it's going to do to your hearing? You think Apple really cares about your hearing loss? I don't think so. Sony didn't. When I was a kid, Walkmans were big everywhere. We're not even hearing about that now. You got big microphones in your ear. right?
Yeah.
In the wild, in nature, it's not like that. And it's a known fact that when you walk in nature, your body calms itself naturally because we're naturally built to do that. Sitting behind screens, analyzing data 9 hours a day, and maybe getting 40 minutes of fresh air, I don't think is good for us as a species.
Speaking of like going out to the nature, what? How did we end up wearing shoes that are not connected to like your? It looks like all of your nerves are pretty much at like
your feet.
at the bottom of your feet. So that kind of implies that it's some sort of like information exchange with the ground,
Right?
and we're kind of isolated that.
It's interesting.
With the rubber.
You say that because the Chinese have a whole medicine on reflexology where they believe
the
the whole foot maps to the whole of the body. To your point. And that idea that there's a subtle electrical field, which I do believe that exists between all things in our bodies. We run a sodium chloride grade. It's the weakest but it's an electrical field. How does a shark know its prey's there? It has a bunch of electrical nerves in its nose that it can pick up prey by their charge. So that's part of the nature of and our feet.
I also think besides electrical part, there could be also like mycelium, connections.
That's true too. I mean, the fungus in a forest talk to each other. It's a weak system. The trees work with each other.
Yeah.
There is a ground, and I believe that shoes, what we're doing to our feet, we're disconnecting from all that. It's not it's an unusual thing. And the American Indian never wore shoe. If you study these Indians here, and they were in incredible shape. They ran barefoot, a lot of them. Moccasins came later and they were able to stitch, but in general, a moccasin really is like a sock. It's a leather sock, so this foot's always on the ground, right? And that's a lot of natives in the world. If you study the people of Calamari, right, and look at these people too, for example, one, their gut bacteria is far healthier than us. What do? They're hunter-gatherers. They run barefoot. The only thing that really kills them is a bone fracture. There's no incidence of diabetes, hypertension, or cancer. Why is that? They're living in the desert of Africa. You would think all those things would be prevalent, but that tells you something about the way that we're living.
Yeah.
Are we built to really be hunter-gatherers? Is that really the nature? And I'm not saying reverting to different pieces of lifestyle, but ultimately, I think there's a oneness that we are missing. And computers and technology and social media have broken down the core existence of our society. I'm not a dystopian man. It is what it is, and we're here now. But communities are a big part of this. The social connection of all things. Plants, feet, ground, human beings, big deal. In the last 30 years, look at how much of that is less. Look at the incidence of suicide, anxiety, depression. Why is that on the rise?
Yeah.
Are we diagnosing it better, or is it the things we're doing to ourselves? Right? I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, the mental health is...
At pandemic level. Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah, you brought up nomads. I'm from like Kazakhstan. I'm from like the steppes and...
I'm familiar. The Mongolian, the Great Genghis Khan.
Yep. I read this book called Yurt 101, and there's a guy, he has this theory. He says that the nomads of the steppe actually evolved not from hunters and gatherers. They tried sedentary at that place. It didn't work out, and it was an evolution from sedentary to nomadic.
That's quite remarkable. That's like it throws in the face of the hunter-gatherer theory that's really been popular.
Because they found these brick structures. It was like they were like yurts, but they were bricked and digged into a ground, and people used to live there. And way predates the nomadic lifestyle until like Genghis Khan. But then something happened, and they decided to go nomadic, which meant they had to like travel about 2,000 miles a year.
Yeah.
Whenever it gets colder, they go to the warm place. Hotter go to the colder place.
Right.
And then along the way, the animals they would keep their animals with them, right? Like big herds of animals.
Run with their animals.
Yeah, and then they will leave manure, and that manure fertilizes the land.
So it's like a symbiosis.
It's an ecological ecosystem, and then you don't come back to the same pasture the next year. You give it a couple of years to organically replenish. So you always have access to this fresh, organic grass that your animals eat.
Like
And
the
then-
rotation.
Yeah, and then you eat those animals. It's almost like a contract between animals and us. Like
Yeah.
we make you like as a species survive, but you help us with like clothing, tooling, food, everything. We use everything.
The natives used to bless the animal. Thank
Yes.
you for giving us your life.
Yep.
Thank you for giving us life because you gave yours for us. So that we give you, we take only what we need.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, it depends also on geographically where you're located at. So like if you're down in India, maybe you don't have to do that because the abundance of vegetation, so you can afford to be a vegetarian there because everything grows there, right?
Well, I would argue vegetarianism came out of a growth for, in India anyway, because I am Indian. I could speak this a little bit. That came out of a growth of a oneness with all of the world. That's the Vedas themselves, right? The self, you are one with the self, and the self is one with you, right? So there is this whole idea of respecting all life, right, in every form. I'm not saying every Indian does this, but I'm saying when you really study what the gurus speak of, that's what they speak of. And that's really illuminated in the Gita, right? But it's not to say that those warriors weren't hunting and all that was going on. I'm just saying that it's a life force.
Yeah. Also, what I'm saying is like maybe it's a little bit harder to do it in these harsh climates, like in Kazakhstan. You know, like to live a vegetarian life because there's not a lot of vegetables grow there.
Sure. Oh, you are the land. You're making the land, right?
Yeah.
You have to adapt yourself to that land.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's just that's how that civilization came to be because you're adapting to your environment.
Well, even greater than that. I mean, you look at the warriors of Kazakhstan and eventually the Mongols. I mean, what made them so devastating is they could fight in the winter. The cold did not bother them. So the Europeans weren't
So
used
you're very how do you say adapted
Exactly.
to the harsh environments.
So when they invaded Russia, it was like nothing to them because they were leading nighttime attacks in the cold, no problem.
Yeah.
Where the
Very
other,
efficient. You got to be very efficient, and
Exactly.
also you got to be very self-sustainable.
Right.
Like compared to like Roman army when there was like a big commander, and then you just teach your soldiers. In those steps, when you grow up, since you're 5 years old, you're already growing up to be a warrior.
yeah,
Like you can hunt, you can find food for yourself. You're self-sustainable. You bring 3 horses with you.
yeah,
And then, like, when you go, like, to start invading people,
yeah.
imagine there's 10,000 of army, and then it's 3 times more horses because each soldier brings 3 more horses with them.
That's an army. That's an army.
And then those horses would serve as a food if need be, if they cannot find anything like hunting or everything, or they just change them so they don't get tired, you know?
So keep them moving.
Yeah,
keep moving.
During winters, do you know the frozen rivers will freeze and then they will go along those frozen rivers?
That also gives you an advantage as an army.
Yeah.
If you come in the winter, you have land that you can never normally get.
And then usually those places where people gather is around rivers, right?
Yeah.
Closer to the rivers. So
That's right.
very, very
The cities.
fast way.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And also, I believe that's again comes back to this greed of humans' greed, right? So we were so in tune with nature. The first horse was actually domesticated in that area, so
Sure.
people started riding horses, the centaurs, and everything. That whole idea of people one, like a person, half horse, is basically about us. Because since you're 5 years old, you're basically on a horse. You're almost one with it. I'm saying about the greed, the technological adventure. We became very strong at once, right?
Yeah.
And then started, all right, let's go invade. And that thing brought the collapse to that civilization too.
I think that's man's basic. I mean, if you read the Leviathan and Thomas Hobbes says, self-preservation, that's man's greatest attribute. That's what he's going to do. And they built the Constitution based on that thinking because they knew that. That's the nature of a human being. He's going to take care of one first before he looks out for everybody. In order to get them to think of a oneness scenario, there has to be some sort of check or balance on power. But power left unadulterated is a drug in itself. And greed follows that, right? Power, greed, money. And When you look at new technologies, a lot of them I believe are neutral, but it's the human nature has not changed since we've been on this planet. Whether that be Mongolians, Romans, Indians, it doesn't really matter. Whatever that exposure is, whatever that taste is, it will be fulfilled, right? And very few of us actually have a monitor on that. And that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. In a modern society, a lot of the things we have spoken about historically are playing back through, right? There's this race for capital control of AI. Quantum compute, for example, right? Whoever figures out quantum encryption, you have two electrons in the same space spinning at the same time. That's an unbreakable piece of code. So if I had that, you could do nothing to me. I would know all of your codes too, by the way, because I have the ability to, one, to set up an unbreakable code, but also break into your stuff. So now I control the weapon codes. Now I control the money codes. Now what? Because money's really not money anymore. It's now bytes and bits, right? We've broken down a currency thing. And if I really look at the strength of the American construct, it's the money, right? And everyone trades oil in our dollar. If you took that off the exchange, the American economy would collapse tomorrow, right? That's what this is built on. There was a time when you had $1 and you got $1 worth of gold. That's all gone. That's standard of what real money is, right? And back in old days, we would trade. We would give you 3 crops for a deer. So there was an exchange. And the Indians in this country had that type of exchange. All cultures had it. The Romans, the Indians, they had some sort of an exchange method. Because trade is the greatest asset to an economic system. But at some point, it leads to war too. Scarcity will lead you to war. I want more. That greed, the avarice you talk of, right? That's the nature of what we do. And I think it's the same in technology. When you watch today, and I watch today, this collapse of these oligarchs moving in on this technology from all sides and using it in media, using it in, any way, because AI in itself really could lead to control of society. I mean, China's showing us they have a great firewall right now. Mm-hmm. They're limiting what their people see. They know they have more cameras on planet than any other country. What they're doing to the Uyghurs, and politically or not, that has become a test bed of how you actually control a society. They don't want social unrest, right? If left without an AI wall, wonder what the country would do, right? And that's not that much different than America. When you think about where's all your data going, who's controlling that? Are you really good with Google having everything about you, or Meta, or any of these other sites? What choice do you got? You're automatically opting in if you want to be part of society.
Absolutely.
And so then what? So now Nathan and Rob, we are actually being manipulated, right? Yeah. In some subtle way. Well, Nathan, you need a new drug. Well, in order for you to do that, you need to go here. And every so subtle gets even more and more like that. That's really what happened in the social network, in my view. They created a digital community that allowed for control, and now AI grabs intelligence of that. Because what are you doing with all that data? You think you're just letting it sit there? Clearly, they're looking at predictive qualities. And that's the next step, right? That's where we're heading. But does that mean it's all scary and dystopian? No. I would say there is hope, and I'm a human being that believes in the next generation be able to do something positive with this. And there are great things that can happen. We could cure diabetes. We could knock out cancer. We could have unlimited food. We could have a world with no food or no war, right? We could have complete modeling of supply chains where there's no scarcities. Imagine that world. What could we do with that if we actually did that, right? A greater society. And then we focus on what's really important. Community, right? Family. And actually finding ways to bridge our differences, because we are more similar than we are different. And if a Russian and Ukrainian sat down today, you would know that they are basically brothers. They would not shoot each other. That is not how that would work. That's governments talking like that. Basically megalomanias, right? Letting these things go forward. That's what we really need, ultimately.
What do you think of Roblox? Like the meta?
Roadblocks?
Roblox, like the game.
Mm-hmm. Here's what I think. So I've raised 3 children. I've got twin girls who Zabine knows, and I've got a son, and I'm an anti-technology guy. I think you leave the kid. I'm a Montessorian type person. I believe like Marie Montessorian, where you let kids see the environment and make the environment theirs and adapt to the environment. And I would argue even in the Mongol culture, they did the same. They let them out in the wild and experience wild. And when I look at something like Roblox or even what's that other game? Minecraft, where you create your own world and you lock in and you don't know who's on the other side of that world. That really creates a level of fear for me because I don't know what's going on. And the brains are still, our brains evolved to build guards and build boundaries. When you are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, boundaries are shifting. I read somewhere that the study of the human brain, most young minds aren't done until they're 25. So if someone's manipulating that at that age, it's scary thinking. And do you want Meta or Roblox raising your child? I mean, as a parent, in a lot of ways, I look at this stuff like it's a babysitter. But if I'm a real dad, active dad, I'm looking at, what are you doing, son? Even in my house, I fight screens all day long. I told my kids over break, can we sit down, and this is the truth of it, no screens, just us playing games, eating dinner. You know how many days I got away with? 3. Couldn't break it.
Yeah. But you do realize, right, there is a community in the Roblox. There's almost an economy.
And that's incredible. So this leads us to a second point, the creator, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing. When you have a creator economy like Roblox, like YouTube, like Nebula, right? Even like this is, we are creating content right here. In the old days of this creation, you'd have to break through an FCC license. You'd have to set up a scenario with a radio company or a TV company. All blocked us off. Is that economy? I think it's a powerful thing because I'll tell you again, as we talked about earlier, that power consolidation of modern media does not let voices like yours or mine get forward. You need stuff like this. And in that community, that's how that voice is coming loose. Is it good? Should it be monitored? I think so to some extent, but who monitors? This has always been the problem. I mean, do you let it go the way it goes? There was a time in America where newspapers were what they were making up stuff, and they were localized, right? This was how it was run. Slowly over time, everything consolidated under one, and they control the voice. But this kind of stuff, the creator, I think this is the time where the creator can create ownership, which I think is beautiful. If I look now at YouTube, I think recently the numbers I read was $750 million are being poured right now, creator content. That Mr. McBeast made $86 million. That's beautiful. I mean, that someone could get up in the room, you and me, come up with an idea, throw it out there, let me see if it sticks. Because that's really what creators want to do. You want to make as many things as you can and make it stick and see what comes out of it. That's an artist. Isn't it a great power? And also, if there's something dystopian going on you don't like, as long as the censorship's not there, you can bring that forward, right? Obviously, if you're in China, that's been knocked off. But in this country, yeah, to your point, the creator economy is a massive thing. And I think it's only going to get bigger. At a certain point, the standard streamers, the standard stations are going to fall. And they should be worried that this creation economy is taking over. Because kids, like you said, Roblox is setting up communities for them at a very young age. So they understand that to be the world.
They share they share Robux between each other.
Yes.
And like they're sharing economy in there.
Yes.
So my son is also to art, and he draw a banana. There is like this room where people draw art. He draw a banana, and people started donating for that banana. Like, this is a cool banana you draw.
Well, that goes into the blockchain. If you think about the blockchain and you look at, DeFi, and you look at being able to do, where you can buy pieces of art on a chain, not knowing the individual next to you.
But they're not even buying it. They're just like paying it for him. Like, hey, cool, good job. Like, I'm donating it for you.
Validating.
Like yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
And he also does these faces, the faces or skins.
Sure.
So he sells those too.
Yeah.
Like he draws them and then he sells them. So what I'm saying is, like, when we were talking about like limiting the screen time and then limiting our kids from these communities, but there are communities, and this is like almost the future of people like communicating with each other. So there is always this balancing game. How much do I limit them? And I still want them to be a part of like the community as well, and these kids, some people just live in those, which is kind of strange. My son spends a lot of time in the computer, but I try to pull him. Like, hey, let's go hang out. Let's watch a movie or something. Let's like interact with each other. Yeah. At least, like, I understand this life you living right now is seems important to you, but also want to be a part of it, you know.
But you know, the thing about computers and what we're doing today, there was a study out of Stanford where they were able to take hold of the dopamine pump, right? That's what a computer is doing today. That's what these social things are doing. So you as a parent are fighting chemistry, primitive brain chemistry that the computers got hold of. That's what makes them dangerous.
Yeah.
So again, how do you, like, if you do this experiment, and I tried this with my daughters too. If you pull their stuff away, watch how they react to you.
Oh man,
they will yell. That's a lot like an addict, right?
Yep.
When you pull the drug away, he's shaking.
Absolutely.
Right? He's gonna fight you. You're wrong. You don't know me.
He doesn't understand. You can see the reaction in his body. He didn't even realize himself like what is happening.
Right.
To him. He's like, he's irritated.
Right.
He's like upset.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But can you stop it? In the end of it, this is where AI is playing. It is definitely becoming a part of everything we do. How are we going to interact as human beings? What's that evolutionary state? Is it putting a chip in your brain like Elon wants? I don't know. But we are. This is the world. We are at a cusp at this point.
Yeah. So, like, there is an argument, right? We are almost wired to create something like greater than us, which is going to be like our baby, right? The AI is our creation type of stuff, right? So, like, basically, what we're saying is like this physical form factor that we're in is kind of limiting us in progressing further, and this AI is going to be our torch. We're passing the torch type of stuff,
Right.
Legacy. But we still want to live, right? As a community, because there's something to cherish about this life.
But you would look at all the tools we've ever built were to help us live better. Right? We came up with atomic energy, so we have unlimited power, but was used to make bombs. Right? We came up with dynamite to clear roads. We dropped them on each other.
Yeah.
All these technologies were built in the vein of it's going to be better. Right? And the AI will make work better. Like, you can even see it now. It can write your emails. It can do a lot of your summary. It can log all your data. It can find things out instantly. If you're on Perplexity right now, you can compile industry scale reports in 15 seconds or less. I mean, you go back 10 years ago, look at how long it took to do that, right? That's a huge advantage if I'm working. Is that direct into ROI? Not just yet. I've been on a lot of conversations with a lot of different people, CEOs and CTOs. It's a 75%er right now. There's still 25, but that will solve. This is going to change. This world is moving faster than we can ever imagine. There are many great things happening, you know, and when I look at AI, the three limiters are: one, now the data needs to train itself, right? So you need synthetic data, and it needs to be able to train it. And that's what China did with DeepSeek for the most part, from what I can tell. They were able to get a synthetic trained model, and it was able to leap ahead and make the gains that it made. The next is the hardware itself. These chips are inefficient. Everyone knows that. Very inefficient. The heat sinks are too high, right? The power consumption is even worse. But even bigger foundational models, right? If I look at someone like Liquid AI and I see what she's doing, she took a model on a water worm, 660 neurons, 40% faster than what chat's doing today, and way more 30 to 40% energy efficient, edge compute. That's only going to get better, because our brains didn't just become 100,000 neuron base, as Hinton had said. It took years to evolve. If you think about the laws of evolution, biological evolution, and we don't need full capacity all the time. A lot of our brain is not used like that. We're used in moments, like a worm, reacting to whatever the environment is pushing. That's kind of what we need right now. Like, make a right turn on my Waymo and do it now. Not go through every scenario and use that compute cost to get there, right? That's a little bit inefficient. And that's what needs to happen. When this thing gets to 50% compute, and I don't believe it's now, I think we're sitting on some sort of bubble at this moment, and it's going to pop. But that being said, this has been the case in most technology. We're youthful exuberance, we push it over the top, and then we break. And that's going to happen here too. But in that, we have made some big gains, and there will come efficiencies. And when it gets to the point where it's 50 to 60% cheaper, it will be everywhere. It'll be usable by everybody. Everything you know. I can envision a place where Nathan has a personal robot who's helping him set up his mics. And the robot will cost as much as your microwave.
Yeah.
Right now, they're millions of dollars, you know, but it's coming.
The reason I think I started this podcast right now, I'm starting to realize, is this AI thing is going to generate content like crazy. But I feel like people will never get tired of watching other people, like live, real life people. And I feel like the content like this, like me and you talking, would be valuable for people because AI is just gonna go crazy with.
Well, think of it like this, Nathan. You're building a community because you're a creator. You have a great idea to speak of the things that are meaningful to you. And you know what? I bet there are 1,000 other people like you
Yep.
that want to hear it.
Yep.
And that's how this will be. I think that's what we're going to be. We're going to be actually people creating content. So when I was a kid, there were, 5 TV stations. You watched Thursday night, and they controlled. Nielsen's knew exactly who was watching that TV at that point to hit what ad to control that media cost. That's what they did. What did Google do? Well, they came up with algorithms to actually see what you're searching to. Broke the back of modern advertising, right? And then Meta took it to the social level. And now we're looking at TV today, and there is no real streamers have taken over. And this content creation thing, what you're doing right here, that's the next battle.
Yeah.
How long do you think these networks are going to stay alive?
I think they're already.
They're dying.
Yeah.
They're dying. And then, so where does that go? Well, it goes to this.
Yeah.
How do we create content that we think is meaningful for each other?
Yeah. And it may
have a
not be like
question.
these broadcasts like millions of people.
Sorry.
I'm talking about it may not be like the super millions of people. It could be just like communities.
Agreed.
You
Like
know?
the Roblox community.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like the question, like I have 2 questions. So, what do you think about like the nuclear energy, like with the advancement of the like AI, like the data center and the power consumption? And the second question, do you think people will be like willing to like give up their like real life and they'll upload themselves into the matrix?
So for me, that's a great question. I mean, let me look at the Matrix part. I think none of us want to die. I mean, I have my own views on death, and I'm not going to put them here. But I think the average materialist human being wants legacy and wants preservation, and they want to be. So the minute you could have the ability to upload Nathan into the cloud, and I can talk to Nathan whenever I want, I can pick his brain for information, he's going to do it. And his kid's going to want that too. His family's going to want that because that's what would I give to see my grandmother one more time? What would I give to hear that voice one more time? Everything I have in my pocket and then some, right? That's that part. I believe that's definitely coming this way, right? But I think to your part of, when I look at power, I got to break it down to the chipsets, right? When you look at power of AI, we're heavily inefficient today. The heat sinks are ridiculously high, right? When you got chips that are looking at about, 800 watts per chip on the last 800 watts. Multiply that by 64. Now you're into kilowatts, right? And then as we go across racks, say 64, now we're at megas, right? All inefficient. So something has to change. Or going back to my original idea, one, the training. The model's got to get more efficient. We've trained it on every known data piece out there. So now synthetically, how do you do it, right? That's one piece. Second, hardware. We're going to get smarter with these. AI will allow us to look at different material constructs, right? Maybe. But we haven't got off silica yet. That's inefficient. Horribly. And the way that chips are built today, they're built on decision-driven chips. In, out. Thousands of and bytes, right? We have to get to a level of qubit, right? Dimensional data. Chips that are moving at speed. If you look at what they predict to be quantum computing, 128 qubit would be faster than the biggest data center on the planet. One chip, not a group of them. That tells you the efficiency levels we need to get to. But going to your idea of nuclear power, I think AI has given us a huge leap forward and able to model the energy systems, right? When I look at the Tomahawk reactor that the Russians dreamed of years ago, that has become standard, and now it's working. But we wouldn't have known that without the ability of AI to look at the models and build what we're building now and the materials that are coming forward. We have that I know of, and you guys can tell me different, there are 4 fusion reactions that hit the ground, and 2 of them here at Lawrence Livermore. But there's one in England, and there's one in the UK, in France, and the Chinese claim they have one too. We are right there. And if you look at fusion, again, to Nathan's point, greed. If we get to, whoever gets to that mark, what do you think they're going to do? That power gives you unlimited power to control the world, whoever gets it, right? Because if you really theoretically had fusion power, a power that's clean burning and no waste and unlimited, what's possible? Well, we're not going to destroy this planet. We can make it better. We could carbon footprint. We're not burning. It's clean. How, as we all know here in this room, fusion is proton adding, right? It starts hydrogen, helium. It works its way down. That's a sun. We've never solved that problem. We're very close. What material could hold that? How's it going to work? Fascinating stuff. But this is the value of AI. That's something really incredible for society. Any of these steps will be the biggest step that man takes. It'll take every bit of power. What I read on the National Ignition site, that laser, there's one laser there. If it ran 1 second, it would take out the Western power grid. It runs at picoseconds. That's the kind of power constraint it will need to launch a fusion reaction. So anything's huge. You got 6 billion people that have a need. How's it going to work, right? Either it'll work like Nathan speaks in communities and we decide to do a community active, or you're going to build something monumental. And every now and again, you get a Nicola Tesla, who is one of my heroes. That was a man that thought different, completely different. Was probably from another planet as far as I'm concerned, but that's the guy.
I've heard like that
Yes.
he has this ability to basically connect to like the cloud.
Tesla?
Yeah.
Tesla's story was more, what I know of Nikola Tesla was
He called it ether.
he could see waves, is what he told people. So before there was electricity, he could see how waves work, and so his mind could see those things. And he understood particle wave movement is basically quantum physics, right? So that's what he physically could understand, and that's the reason how he came up with alternating currents, right? There was this battle in those days between direct current and alternating. You need both. But the genius of his work was that. But he believed that was a waste because you lose so much power, and he's not wrong, in grids and in resistance. He was talking about putting up, grabbing power from the air, taking resistance out of it. Would have been groundbreaking. He tried, didn't work, and he died before he could pull it off. But that understanding of waves led us down to, one, he talked of cell phones in 1890. He talked of death ray machine. Now, he was definitely in his mind, right? So some of these things may or may not possible, right? I mean, wave guns are actually being used in war. I mean, the Iraqis had one, right? Where you can actually launch a projectile at the speed of sound and blow something up using literally like a slingshot, right? Speed, boom, drop it, right? He spoke of those things. So, but, I mean, I don't know about this ability. He was definitely walking an edge and might have been crazy towards the end, but no question, his brilliance was remarkable. No single man, as far as I'm concerned, had that kind of impact on society. Most of us would be living in a cave with that theory on the waves and how he built communicate in his mind, which became standard theory many years later. I mean, many of these people stole the work, as they do with all great scientists, right? If you study the work of Mozart, Salieri tried to destroy Mozart, and he eventually did, because he was jealous. Same thing in Nikolai. They were all jealous of him. Edison, they would not let that flourish, as happens with most of them.
Yeah. It's almost like survival instinct, right? If you see something that you don't understand, you kind of scared of it.
Well, it's the allegory of the cave, right? Plato. Guy brings fire back to the cave. He thinks he's doing better. They kill him.
Yep.
Even though he had something better for them, right? That's humanity in nature. When it's so different, then we grow to resent it because we don't understand it. We hate what we don't understand.
Yeah.
If we create understanding between each other, I think the byproduct is love, right? But that's not who we are. I mean, I talk about this all the time. You think about the evolution of humanity. If you believe in the leaky theory, there are apes. We come from apes, right? So the bonobos, what do? Well, they make love when there's conflict, when there's food missing, right? When you look at a mountain gorilla, non-violent. A silverback will never hurt you unless you come after it. And it makes sure every one of its young and its harem is safe before it attacks, right? And a chimp. What do chimps do? They wipe out all other chimps, they cannibalize, and they kill all the other monkeys. What do you think we evolved? Right? That all of them. And the chimps are 98% similar to us. They all have that quality. But we're not those two. I can guarantee that. Because it would be a different world if that was the case, right?
Yeah. What's that?
Do you have any conspiracies?
Do you believe in conspiracy?
I mean, I don't think the truth in a lot of the stories that we're being told, right? I wonder. I mean, personally, when I think of aliens, right, in the world, and if I look at the stars and you go through the stars as you put your head up, every one of those stars is a universe, right? So I find it very hard to believe that we are the only life form. I know there's all that. And I find that for a large part of this, I don't think our government, none of the governments, but especially the U.S. government, because that's where I've lived, has told us exactly what they found or not, right? That makes me wonder a little bit.
So you think the government kind of has some information that they may not be
I think
exposing?
for sure.
Okay.
I think for
And
sure.
why do you think that is? Due to their lack of knowledge?
I think one, lack of knowledge creates fear.
Yep.
And fear creates dystopia within a society.
Yeah.
So if I don't know what it is, I'm not going to tell you.
They don't want people panicking.
Exactly.
People talking.
Exactly. That's what I would say. I mean, me personally, I mean,
I think that's what Ryan. Do you know Ryan? Ryan Rubin's friend. McLeod.
no.
Ah, okay. We had a podcast when you'll see. He's very a big believer in UFOs and UAPs. So he was talking about that.
I mean,
stuff.
I don't believe in the great universe that we're the only intelligent society. That's an impossible thought for me. This universe is vast, and I'm telling you, if you looked up right now, look at how lit up that sky is. There are many universes out there. I can't make the assumption that we're the only one that evolved. And if that is, it's an incredible luck. But I don't believe it is. Like my own belief, I think it's far deeper than that. And if we look at space-time continuum, Einstein's work, right? There is no space-time. That's the whole idea of quantum entanglement. You could be in different areas of the universe and spinning at the same time using the same knowledge. There's no space or time. That's a construct. Basic physics is you're going straight here. You have a vector. There's a distance. There's space, and there's time. Quantum says all that's in probabilistic determination. If you truly believe that, then you know that there's other things out there, probably millions of years, doing the same thing we're doing on a space-time continuum, right? That's what I would say. You know, it's hard to really functionally call that. If you study quantum physics, ultimately, a lot of your thinking should tell you that the world isn't the way you see it at all. At all. We're just really starting to hit the real smallest part of what that thinking is.
Tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, right. Tip of the spear. Correct. Right.
What about the observer effect in quantum physics?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I actually just took a class by and John Hopkins on the many worlds. Right. So, you know, the idea is, to your point, I don't know if your listeners are listening to this, but or know this, but when you make an observation in quantum, all the other determinations come to zero at that moment. Your observation is that point, right? But there's another theory that says in quantum that none of the worlds go. They keep branching and branching and branching. The many worlds, right? That was a theory by Everett. It's interesting, you know, like when you think of that, it's hard. These are all theoretical games that hasn't been proven yet, right? So there's a whole study on what does that really look like. Is there 50 Nathans in 50 different worlds running a parallel system, or is it one? Hard to say, right? But the one thing I know about quantum physics, this is the one thing we know to be true. Mostly all the work in terms of time and space and the way that we do it, that is held up under proven science. All of your clocks, your lasers are quantum atoms. This is really quantum mechanics in action. These computers, these microphones, that synchronicity is actually holds up, right? In terms of this other stuff, the observation model, the breakdown, what is quantum gravity? We haven't even quantified that. Basic physics says that's the core rule. It's a core thing, but in that world, that doesn't exist yet. We don't know. We really don't know, right? Because it all's based on a wave model. Is it a wave or is it a particle? How do we observe? What's the observation of that? Or is it both? right? That's
It's kind of like maybe 100 of years ago, there were like very like leaps in discovery and physics, but then looks like it's kind of tapered off a little bit, right? Like there are discoveries, but they're not like these leaps, right?
But I think it's almost like a smoldering fire.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're burning and you're burning and you're burning, and eventually you're going to get a rager, right? We're assembling and we're looking at data, and things are coming in slowly, and then boom. Like I think 10 years from now, like Florian's people, his generate quantum's going to be nothing to them. It's good. That's how they're going to talk. You know, I really do believe that world is here. When that to me, when I look at the world, AI, quantum compute, fusion power, these three things are the greatest drivers of society as we know it. When we get off of bits and bytes and go to qubits and able to actually really create entanglement without noise, right, at a speed that could be useful for all of us, that's a huge change, right? And if I look at ways that we look at data and how data can be looked at that level, because we are living in a quantum, we're walking through atoms as we speak, right? We just can't process. So what does that mean, right? So now you start thinking about that in that version. What's the world that you know? Speed of change will be like that. And it'll be second nature. It'll be second nature. I firmly think that to be true.
Sounds good. Well, thank you very much, Rob.
No, Nathan, it was an honor. I can't thank you guys enough.
Yeah, I really want this to be happening again, maybe sometime later, and maybe I can prepare myself for quantum stuff, because I did not know like you were interested in that. I'm interested, but I don't know much, so it would be cool to pick your brain on that and see what kind of ideas would come out of that. Sounds good.
I love your effort as a creator. It means the world to me. The most valuable thing we got is time, and the fact that you gave me your time for us to have this discussion means the world to me.
Thank you.
And as the creators get greater, this is what it becomes, right?
Yeah.
Should be a world of a dialogue and a great conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Really cool.
Wow. That was
You sound like Neil deGrasse.
yeah, and the voice and everything is like wow.
Thank you.
How you doing, buddy?
Ryan's ready to
Hey, it's
talk.
also like motivating.